afternoon and welcome to the Media News. I am Olubunmi Ajiboye Agbola. The Independent National Electoral Commission has reiterated commitment to conducting credible elections next year. Its National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, Mr. Festus Okoye, who represented the Chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, gave the assurance at an interactive session with the media in Abuja. He assured that INEC would take delivery of all bimodal voter accreditation system before end of this year, considering the safety of the equipment in the face of incessant attacks on facilities across the country. Mr. Okoye assuaged the fears of Nigerians, stressing that the machines will be fully secured. He added that while BVAS machines remain in INEC's custody, the permanent voters' cards will be kept with the Central Bank of Nigeria. The United Nations has released $10 million from the Nigeria Humanitarian Fund and the Central Emergency Response Fund to support flood victims across the country. The resident and humanitarian coordinator, Mr. Matthias Chmel, stated this during his visit to Anambra, Adamawa, and Bayelsa states. He met with and spoke with people who were struggling to put food on the table and to get clean water to drink without shelter, as they had lost all their possessions and livelihood. He explained that half of the fund will be allocated to provide water, sanitation, health care, shelter, and non-food items to over 264,000 people in Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa states that were affected by both flooding, conflict, rising hunger, and cholera outbreak. Mr. Chmel further explained that the NHF funds would complement the $5.5 million CERF rapid response allocation for the states most affected by flooding in Nigeria and will help provide clean water, sanitation, hygiene, emergency shelter, and health care assistance for 495,000 people in Anambra, Bayelsa, Kogi, and Niger states. The African Union Commission and the African Development Bank have signed a grant agreement of $9.73 million to drive digital market development in Africa. In a statement issued on the website of the AFDP, the agreement is for implementation of phase 1 of the upstream project for digital market development in Africa. The agreement signing took place at AUC headquarters in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, with the AUC Commissioner for Economic Development, Trade, Tourism, Industry, and Minerals, Ambassador Albert Muchanga, and the AFDP's Deputy Director General, East Africa Region, Dr. Abdul Kamara. The AFDP's Board of Directors approved the grant of 7 million units of account of $9.73 million last September. Ambassador Albert Muchanga said the project would support the continent's economic transformation to get the desired African continent in creating employment opportunities for millions of young people for the stability and prosperity of the continent. The federal government has explained that it does not interfere with the outcome of surveys conducted by the National Bureau of Statistics because the government is committed to getting reliable information for proper planning. Minister of State for Budget and National Planning, Prince Clem Agba, who stated this while declaring open the 2022 African Statistics Day celebration in Abuja, reacted to the results of the 2022 multidimensional poverty launched by President Muhammadu Buhari. The MPI results showed that about 133 million Nigerians were living in poverty despite the huge investment in poverty alleviation by the current government. The minister said further that the government needed to know the real state of affairs in the country and where the gaps are. He promised that the federal government would continue to support the MBS to enable it to perform more efficiently. The Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps in Rivers State has impounded 5 trucks and arrested a suspect for alleged oil theft. The state commandant of the corps, Michael Oga, said this in a statement issued by the corps spokesman Olufemi Ayodele in Port Harcourt. He said that the trucks were impounded for conveying petroleum products without haulage licenses and other required documents. The commandant said the prime suspect was arrested for conveying illegally refined products conveying with food parks in a truck in Port Harcourt. He warned perpetrators of the heinous crime to desist or face the weight of the law. And moving on to sport. The Federation of the International Football Association says alcohol will not be sold at the World Cup's 8 stadiums in Qatar. Reports say FIFA changed its policy before the start of the tournament, with the World Cup starting tomorrow when Qatar play Ecuador. The World Football's governing body said that a decision has been made to focus the sale of alcoholic beverages on the FIFA and Fan Festival following discussions between it and the host authorities. It indicated that other fan destinations and licensed venues removing sales points of beer from Qatar's FIFA World Cup 2022 stadium perimeters. And moving on to the foreign scene, U.S. climate envoy John Kerry has tested positive for COVID-19 at the United Nations climate talks in Egypt. Reports say Kerry's illness has added worries to the negotiations, which were scheduled to end yesterday as negotiators were desperately trying to break a deadlock over loss and damage funding for developing countries battered by weather disasters, but there is no clear end in sight. Kerry's spokesman, Whitney Smith, wrote in a statement that he is fully vaccinated and boosted and experiencing mild symptoms. The talks at the COP27 summit in the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh have stumbled on the controversial issue of loss and damage funding for less developed countries to deal with the effects of climate change. Meanwhile, the Group of 77 and China coalition of 134 developing countries launched an opening gambit on loss and damage this week with a proposal to create a fund at COP27 and operational details to be agreed later. Still on the foreign scene, 15 people were killed in a gas cylinder explosion in a residential area in the northern Iraqi city of Sulaymaniyah. Police said that civil defense firefighters managed to contain the fire that broke out in a residential area. The fire damaged several houses and destroyed at least 5 vehicles. They further said that at least 3 houses were completely destroyed by the explosion of a cooking gas cylinder that was installed in the rooftop of one of the homes. The rescue operation lasted 17 hours, while the governor of Sulaymaniyah province announced 3 days of mourning. It will be recalled that last month, more than 80 people died and 13 others injured in a Baghdad hospital fire when improperly stored oxygen cylinders exploded. Much of war-ravaged Iraq's infrastructure is dilapidated and tragedies are common when a tanker transporting gas accidentally exploded in Baghdad. And that ends the media news on OSBC TV. It was edited by Michael Adeniyi. Do join us at 5 for the evening news. Good afternoon.